13 different people have brought up Ibanez in the comments on this channel without being asked. That is the second highest count of any brand we have ever tracked, and this channel has never given Ibanez its own video. So here it is. One viewer wrote that he bought a Gio GSR200 for $200, called it a damn good bass, and said it was the best purchase he ever made. Another said he owns an Ibanez GSR200 and a Fender Jazz, and he likes the Ibanez better, and the Fender cost 3 times as much. A third said he grabbed a $200 Ibanez off the wall in a shop, and it played better than the bass he had come in with. And a fourth is still playing a Talman short scale he bought used for $120 and called it pure gold. Notice what none of them said. Not one of them said it sounded better. Every single one of them was talking about how it played. That is not an accident, and it is the whole story of this brand. Ibanez has spent 40 years optimizing for one thing that most bass companies treat as an afterthought, and it shows up in a number that almost nobody looks up before buying. So this video does 2 things. First, the one spec that actually predicts whether you will love an Ibanez or hate it, and it is not the pickups and it is not the wood. Second, 12 Ibanez basses worth owning, from $199 up to genuine used market gold mines, plus an honest section on the 4 reasons to walk away. Nobody is paying for this video. Every topic on this channel comes out of your comments, which is exactly how this one got made. Let us start with why the brand gets skipped in the first place. Ibanez is filed in most people's heads as a guitar company, and more specifically as a metal guitar company. Pointy headstocks, 7 strings, shred. That reputation is real and it is earned, and it has almost nothing to do with their bass department, which has been quietly building one of the most consistent budget to mid-range lines in the industry since the mid-80s. The second reason is that the bass world has a default. When somebody says the word bass, the shape in your head is a precision or a jazz. Everything else has to argue its way in. Ibanez did not try to argue. They built something that deliberately does not feel like a Fender, and that is exactly why the people who like it so much. Now the spec, pick up a Fender Precision or Jazz and the strings at the bridge are 19 millimeters apart, center to center. That number has been more or less standard since the 50s. Pick up an Ibanez Soundgear, and that same measurement is around 16.5 millimeters. 2.5 millimeters per string does not sound like much written down. Across 4 strings, it changes the entire geometry of what your right hand is doing. Add to that the neck itself. The 4-string Soundgear is 38 millimeters at the nut, which is jazz bass territory on paper, but it is dramatically thinner front to back than any Fender neck. On the 5 strings, the gap gets wider. Ibanez sits around 45 millimeters at the nut, where a Fender 5 is closer to 47.5. So here is what that means in practice, and this is the honest version. If you have small hands, if you came to bass from guitar, if you play fast lines, if you play a 5-string and the neck always felt like a plank, an Ibanez will feel like somebody finally built an instrument for you. And if you are a slap player, or you have big hands, or you are used to being able to get your fingers between the strings, the exact same instrument will feel cramped and you will hate it within 10 minutes. That is the same spec producing both reactions. It is not a quality difference, it is a fit difference, and it is measurable before you spend anything. Then there is the second thing that number quietly buys you. Weight. Soundgear bodies are small and thin, and a typical SR comes in around 8 to 9 pounds, where a Precision routinely lands at 9.5 to 10.5. Several of you have told me in the comments that weight is now the deciding factor in what you actually take to a gig, and that the expensive bass stays home. This is the part of the Ibanez story that nobody markets, and it is the reason a lot of longtime players end up owning one late in their playing life. Now the model numbers, because Ibanez names things in a way that is actually logical once you know the rule. Gio, written as GSR, is the entry line. Plain SR is the standard Soundgear. Above that sits Premium, and at the top sits Prestige, which is made in Japan. The number tells you the tier, so a 300 is a step above a 200, and a 500 is a step above a 300. And the last digit is the string count. An SR305 is a 5-string version of the 300. An SR506 is a 6-string. 4 seconds of reading, and you know the line, the tier, and the string count. So, 12 worth owning. Number 1, the Gio Mikro model GSRM20 at around $199. 28.5 inches scale. This is the smallest real bass on this list, and the reason it is number 1 is that it is the honest answer for a child, for a very small adult, or for anyone who wants something that lives next to the sofa and actually gets picked up. Number 2, the Talman TMB30, around $220. 30-inch scale, offset body, split pickup. One of you bought one barely used for $120 and called it pure gold, and that is not an unusual reaction to this instrument. Number 3, the Gio GSR200, around $230. This is the single most mentioned Ibanez in this channel's comments. P&J pickup pair, plus the fat EQ knob, which is a bass boost and not a full preamp, and it does what it says. This is the bass that keeps beating instruments that cost 3 times as much in people's own comparisons. Number 4, the Talman TMB100, around $250. Full 34-inch scale, same offset body. If you want the Talman look and sound but need a standard scale, this is it. Number 5, the Gio GSR205, around $280. The 5-string version of number 3 and one of the cheapest genuinely playable 5 strings on the market, largely because of that narrower neck. Number 6, the SR300E, around $350. This is where the line stops being a budget bass. Active 3-band EQ, better hardware, and the neck profile the brand is known for. Number 7, the SR305E, around $380. 5-string version of number 6. For a lot of players, this is the cheapest 5-string that does not fight them. Number 8, the SR500E, around $635. Mahogany body, Bartolini design pickups, and a noticeable jump in finish quality. This is the one people keep. Number 9, the SR505E, around $700. The 5-string version, and one of you told me you own both this and the 300 and love them both, specifically calling out the fast neck for small hands. Number 10, the Bass Workshop series, which is where Ibanez puts the strange ones. Semi-hollow bodies, fretless models, multi-scale. These do not sell in volume. They turn up used at prices that do not reflect what they are. And if you want something that does not sound like everything else, this is where to look. Number 11, SR Premium, roughly $1,100 new. Indonesian built, but with wood, electronics, and fretwork that genuinely compete with instruments at twice the money. And number 12, the actual gold mine. Used Soundgears from the 90s and 2000s, often badged SDGR on the headstock. One of you mentioned owning an SDGR 5-string with active electronics and called it stellar. These were built when the line was already mature. They have been depreciating for 20 years, and nobody is bidding them up because there is no vintage story attached. Now the honest part, and there are 4 of them. The first is the one we already covered, and it is the biggest. That narrow string spacing is not universally good. If you slap, go and play one before you buy one. Not a similar one. That one. The second is the Gio tier specifically. At $200, something has to give. And on Gio, it is the hardware and the electronics. The tuners and the bridge are the first things owners replace. Budget for it or buy at the SR300 tier, where that money is already spent. The third is the Talman shape. That offset body with a full-size headstock will neck dive on a strap, and no setup fixes physics. A wide strap helps. Knowing about it beforehand helps more. And the fourth is resale. Ibanez basses do not hold their value, with the exception of the Japanese prestige models. That is bad news if you are buying new and good news if you are buying used, which is exactly why number 12 is on this list. 3 questions before you buy one. Have you actually measured the string spacing on the bass you play now? Not guessed, measured. It is the single best predictor of whether this brand is for you. Are you buying for the neck or for the sound? If it is the neck, Ibanez is one of the strongest arguments in the entire market. If it is the sound, be honest about whether you want that scooped, modern voice or whether you are chasing something a Fender does better. And is weight actually part of your decision? For a lot of you, it now is, and it belongs in the spec sheet next to everything else. Here is the honest verdict. Ibanez does not win the argument about tone, and it has never really tried to. What it does is build instruments that are physically easier to play than almost anything else at the same money, and it does that consistently across a range that starts under $200. That is a narrower claim than most brands make. It also happens to be true, and it is why 13 of you brought it up without being asked. Tell me in the comments which Ibanez you own and what you moved to it from. I have a suspicion that most of you did not switch because of how it sounded. Subscribe for honest, no-hype truth about bass gear.